Greetings tonight, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. I am smiling thinking about all the movies that I'm about to talk about. So really strange movie for me to do, or video for me to do on my channel, but I'm so happy to see some of you join me. I just thought that it would be good to talk about some of the movies that I find really uplifting during this time while we're in quarantine, because I feel that this is a time where people are looking for things to do still. And there are certain movies, Lord of the Rings aside, because I really felt that I loved Peter Jackson's vision, even though it didn't quite follow the actual books of Lord of the Rings and even The Hobbit. But I will say that I really did appreciate the movies for the way that they brought forward a very powerful message. And there have been many movies for me that have done that, where I find myself just smiling after they're done, thinking about them for days later. Somehow they impact my life. And so if you're anything like me, where movies are a mirror to your own soul or a window into the true reality of this world, then I thought that this would be a good video to do and talk about 50 of my favorite movies that are good for the soul, that I have found they have uplifted me in some way. And then we can talk about your favorites too, because I would love to hear about them. So I'm going to take just 30 seconds to go through the movie list here, because there are 50 of them. So I don't want to take too long, but I'm just going to give you just the basics. So welcome, everybody. Hi, Faith. Welcome, Karen. I'm glad to see everybody here. Muriel, yay. Sweelad, yes. So my very first one I put on my list, and these are in no order in terms of my favorites. So they're just in random order of what I just next thought of. But Amelie is one movie that I truly cherish. It is a French film that was made in 2001, and it was directed by Jean-Pierre Jeunet. I think that's his name, with Audrey Tautou. And she's this actress that reminds me so much of Audrey Hepburn. If she was, I guess, the modern version of Audrey Hepburn, then that's definitely who she reminds me of. So Amelie is a wonderful movie in so many ways. I remember seeing that in 2001 when it first came out, and it really touched my heart. And it was just one of those movies that I never forget. I actually own it, and I watched it a couple times. So if none of you have seen it yet, I highly recommend it. If you love my channel, or if you follow Tolkien and you understand some of the greater messages within his story, I think you'll enjoy Amelie as well. In fact, I have a quote here I wanted to share with you. Amelie has a strange feeling of absolute harmony. It's a perfect moment, a soft light, a scent in the air, the quiet murmur of the city, a surge of love, an urge to help mankind overcomes her. And that is from the narrator, because the movie takes place in France, and it's almost like a narrator telling us a story about this young girl named Amelie and about her adventures in France, and how she was a quiet, introverted, kind of eccentric type of character. And when she finally discovers her purpose in helping others and her gift in this ability, she is able to attract love in her life. And it's just really beautifully done. So Amelie definitely is one of those movies that will definitely raise your vibrations, and it will make you believe in love again. And not only that, but in the power of helping others and doing good deeds for the sake of exploration of the self, I should say. Number 2, I have Shallow Hal. Now, this was directed by the Farrelly brothers, with Jack Black and Gwyneth Paltrow and Jason Alexander, who played George in Seinfeld. This is hilarious, and I actually just recently watched it again. because I've been drawn to it. And I'm like, well, I wonder if this is one of those kind of movies that I can actually consider as uplifting for the soul. But it really truly is. There are some of these parts, because it's about this man that is, he's very shallow, and the reason why he is shallow is because when he was a little boy, his father kind of put something into him where he would always have to look for, the best looking woman, but he never really focused on the inner traits of a person. So when Hal grew up, he became very shallow, looking for a particular beauty in women, but nothing else really. So he meets, I think, some kind of spiritual guru, and he puts this kind of perception on him where he can only see the true beauty of a person, or whatever is inside of a person he sees on the surface. So there's something really beautiful about this movie. It's hilarious. It's really funny and well done. And Gwyneth Paltrow, I think she is an amazing actress in this movie. I really liked her in another movie called Sliding Doors, which she did a while ago. But this is a fabulous movie because every time you see these characters that maybe to society they wouldn't see them as attractive, all of a sudden you see them for their real beauty, and you truly see them as beautiful characters. And then the Farrelly brothers have a way of allowing that perception from visually beautiful to also seeing the person's soul. And so you actually see that in the movie. You see the goodness of the character. And even though that other picture of them as a model is gone, you see them still for their beauty underneath, because you already have been shown a visual picture of their beauty. So it is a great movie with a really powerful message. And Rosemary, who becomes his love interest of Jack Black, she's just an amazing character, and you kind of fall in love with her for what she represents. So Shallow Hal is one of those movies that just uplifted my heart recently, and I love it. So I put that on the list. Highly recommend it. Next one is Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump is one of my favorite. I've watched it a couple times already. Created in 1994, directed by Robert Zemeckis, Tom Hanks, Robin Wright. Wonderful movie. And the dynamic that those two have together is just really something very special and beautiful. If you have not seen it, Tom Hanks plays a young man that is born with a below average IQ, but he has a sincere heart, and he is so well-intentioned. And even though, he's considered to be below average by others, we follow his life in a very long movie. I think it's close to a 3-hour long movie. We follow his life through all these experiences of him making friends and really becoming a great success, showing the world that you don't need to have a very high IQ. You don't need to be rich or wealthy to become a success. You just need to have a good heart, sincere intentions, and a really strong will, because that was one of the things that he was known for, is that he doesn't stop. He just has it in his mind that when he has something to do, he just does it. And that includes running and not stopping and creating kind of a running movement with him. So I love that movie. Wonderful messages. Makes me cry every time I watch it, but in a good way. Just really heartfelt. So Forrest Gump definitely gets that place for a movie for the soul. Next one is Pursuit of Happyness. Pursuit of Happyness with Will Smith and his son Jaden Smith is phenomenal. I mean, it is very tough to watch at first, because you're watching a father kind of slowly lose his job and become nearly homeless, and actually homeless for a few days. And he's struggling to find work. And he has his little son with him because his wife decides to leave him. So it's truly challenging to watch. It made me cry. But the powerful message of the pursuit of happiness itself is in that movie. And so it's like one of those movies where you're crying because you're sad for the characters, but then you're also crying because you're happy for the characters as well. Very uplifting, very moving. Definitely one of the best movies for your soul, Pursuit of Happyness. The next one I have is The Upside. The Upside I have shared recently because I was like, this is a great movie. It has Bryan Cranston in it and Kevin Hart. And I don't know if you guys like Kevin Hart like I do, but I find Kevin Hart is just this lovable man. Very, very funny and quick-witted, very intelligent. And I just think that he does a great job in this movie. It is about an ex-convict that is finding it difficult to find work. So he starts working for a rich paraplegic that actually needs some assistance. And so he becomes his assistant, and this amazing friendship develops between them. And there's some challenges that go along with the movie, but overall the message of the heart is just so amazing. It's one of those movies that when it's done, you're just smiling to yourself and you see all the beauty in the world. So I highly recommend it, The Upside. It was made in 2017, so just recently. The next one is The Matrix, directed by the Wachowskis in 1999. All of the Matrix movies I absolutely love. Now, it's not necessarily about being a feel-good movie sentimentally or emotionally, but for me, what makes a movie for the soul is by radiating some type of truth to you, that you are more than your job. And that was the whole thing about Neo, was that Neo was starting to wake up in this world where he didn't quite fit into society. And he found that, well, the truth of it is that the society is the matrix, it's the illusion. And there's a real reality behind that. Those movies, the Matrix movies, I think are extremely uplifting, especially when you get towards the end, when you start to see Neo really come into his power as the one anomaly that can change everything. And it's just incredible. Some of the spiritual messages within the Matrix are very powerful, and they really spoke to me. And so whenever I'm feeling like maybe trapped in this matrix, I always watch The Matrix in order to remind myself how to get out of it once again. And it's really great for those that are awakening in this world, and they look around and maybe nobody else is talking about certain things, but they notice things around them. And if you're watching it, at least you could feel one with Keanu Reeves, who plays Neo, and you don't feel so alone. So highly recommend that during this time. Also, the next movie I would recommend is The Last Unicorn. This movie came out in 1982, so it's an oldie, but it is a great animation about the last unicorn on Earth that is searching for the reasons of why she is alone, also maybe what have happened to her family, and she meets some friends along the way. And it's just a powerful message. I put down that it's a really uplifting message for those who feel very lonely in the world and strange and like they don't fit in. And it's a beautiful animation, and whenever I watch that movie, I just feel really uplifted. Like I feel like it really rang true to me somewhere deep in my soul. And I know that it's kind of a cult favorite now. People really love The Last Unicorn, especially those who like more like fantasy type of animations and movies. So I highly recommend it. The next one is My Life as a Zucchini. This is a new one I just watched on Netflix. It came out in, actually, what was it? 2016, yeah, so a couple of years ago, directed by Claude Barras with Nick Offerman from Parks and Rec. And you could tell immediately his voice as soon as he plays this character. But this is a really cute clay animation. At first, when you're watching it, you're like, this is really strange. And it's a little dark at first, because it's about a little boy that loses his mother, and he doesn't have his father anymore around him. So his nickname, I guess, is Zucchini. And he gets picked up by the police after his mother passed away, and then he's brought to an orphanage. Now, mind you, it's all clay animation in the style of a little bit like Nightmare Before Christmas. So it's got that really quirky, eccentric type of look to it, but it's like that cozy animation that sometimes I really like, especially with clay animation. It just has this like cozy atmosphere to it. But the movie is really, really sweet, and the message is really powerful, and it's very uplifting. And yeah, I would say happy ending. For such a dark beginning, there is a happy ending. So for those of you who are watching it, if you do try and you're like, wow, this is a little dark for an animation, just keep on watching it and it will brighten up. And it's a really unique look at the orphanage system and like what some of the kids have to go through. And so it helps you cultivate some empathy for them. And it has an absolutely beautiful ending. My next movie I would recommend is called Skin. And this was in 2019, directed by Guy Nativ, who actually won an Academy Award for it. This is a movie that can be a little dark, a little graphic, and it is surrounding the life of a neo-Nazi who had a change of heart over time. He started to realize that the neo-Nazi family that he belonged to was actually not truly, his family or in his best interests. So the whole point is that an agent starts working with him to help him get out of this neo-Nazi gang, because like all gangs, it's really hard to leave. And so he helps him kind of remove himself. And then the title of it, called Skin, is about him, because neo-Nazis, they tend to tattoo themselves. That's part of the rite of passage within their gang. And so the whole point is for him to remove his tattoos that have so much racism and really label him as a neo-Nazi so that he can get a second chance at life. It has some really tough parts in it. It's really hard to watch, but if you are interested in watching somebody get a second chance in life, I absolutely love those movies. And I feel that those are the ones that are good for the soul, because they're all about redemption. They're all about having another chance and having a renewal. You can be anywhere in life. I love those movies that show somebody starting from the very lowest rung on the ladder in life, like, involved with drugs and having a hard time in their home, or, almost at a point where they're surrounded by people who want to kill them, but then they find their way out of those situations. And those are so powerful to me. Those redemption stories are great. Speaking about redemption stories, after watching Skin, I would say that the next one along those lines, but in a really interesting way that they do it, is Shawshank Redemption. This is one that was written by Stephen King, and it came out in 1994, so it's a little bit older. Shawshank Redemption is one of those movies I cannot forget. When you see it, there's not much going on. It's really about kind of the life of prisoners inside of this jail. But the friendships that develop within the Shawshank Redemption, and one of the characters that Tim Robbins, the actor, plays, is such a powerful character. Not powerful in the way that he exerts his power, but just how peaceful he is. He's so full of inner peace. And it's about redemption of the spirit and finding a way to, there is a story about escape, but also finding a way of reaching a sense of inner peace and bliss within, being in the prison system. And it's an amazing movie. It touches my heart every time I watch it. And Morgan Freeman, he's in it. So you get a fabulous cast of Tim Robbins and Morgan Freeman, and their friendship that blossoms is one you don't want to miss. It really touches the heart. The next one I would say is I Heart Huckabees. Okay, so this movie is a very strange one. It came out in 2004, and it has Jude Law, it has Naomi Watts, Dustin Hoffman, Jason Schwartzman, and I think Lily Tomlin, I think that's her name. Now, this is a really interesting movie. I had to watch it a second time in order to really fully appreciate it. It's got a wild cast of characters. It is about a young man who is working for an environmental agency, and he starts to question, I guess, his existence. So he finds an agency that helps people find purpose in life, and that's Dustin Hoffman and Lily Tomlin. And so he's basically being followed around by these agents. But what's fascinating is there's this also this nihilism agency as well. So you have the nihilist of one side of looking at the universe in the Nietzsche way, and then you have also this other side that's a little bit more, I would say, spiritual or idealistic in its perception. But there's some powerful spiritual messages within it, especially when he gets the scene about the blanket. If any of you have seen it, you'll know what I mean. Because Dustin Hoffman is trying to tell Jason that everything is connected together. So there's this theme of interconnection, and all these characters are actually connected, and it's proven in the way that the movie takes place. But it's not a drama, but there are some kind of heavier moments, but it's actually truly a comedy, and it's really fun to watch. So I Heart Huckabees definitely is one of mine, my recommendations. I always love that movie and feel it really uplifts me. The next one I would say is The Fountain. The Fountain, that was made in 2006 with Rachel Weiszman and also Hugh Jackman. And it is about a doctor that is trying to save his wife by finding a cure for, I think, brain tumors, something to do with the brain cancer, something of that nature. And it is beautiful. It was directed by Darren Aronofsky, so it's very artistic in the way that it's done. And it's all about the search for the tree of life. And the tree of life metaphorically, the tree of life physically, and it takes him through his incarnations with his wife. So you get this really powerful message that love transcends into the next incarnations, and that death is never the end. And so there's some very deep messages for those that have experienced death, and it's all about the infiniteness of the soul and reaching a state of enlightenment where you can let go and accept things. The Fountain is a beautiful movie for those that are just looking for that soul uplift at this time. Although in the beginning it can be hard, because it's dealing with a doctor who is losing his beautiful wife, played by Rachel. But the message behind it all is truly beautiful, and it can get you past those sad moments. And I think that that's really ultimately the message. The Fountain is definitely great. The next one I have is Princess Mononoke. So this was made in 1997. This is an anime by Miyazaki, and this is a beautiful anime that shows a young girl who becomes a protector of the forest. It is a story about the forest against the humans that live around it. And so there's a lot of messages about forest spirits that are guarding the forest, and her coming into her purpose and her true spirit as this guardian kind of warrior over the forest. It's an absolutely beautiful animation or anime. So I highly recommend it. It definitely uplifts you, and it might make you become more of a guardian over Earth after you watch it. The next one I would say is Life of Pi. Life of Pi, it was made in 2012, and this movie is really powerful. It's one of those movies where there's not much going on as far as in terms of action, but it makes you think, and you're stuck with the characters in a deeper exploration of the self and of the universe around you and the animals that live around you. The story is really about a young boy named Pi, who his family owned a zoo, and so the zoo was being moved over across the ocean. So they had this ship full of animals. What ends up happening is that the ship eventually sinks through a storm, and all that is left is a tiger, a monkey, and a hyena, and this young boy. And he stays in this boat with these animals, and the relationship that takes place between the animals and him is something beautiful. The part where he's out there on the ocean at night and he's looking at the tiger's eyes and looking into the depth of the ocean with the bioluminescent bacteria that glows. There's some really beautiful scenes, very touching. But there's this really powerful message about the relationship between animals and humans and how they reflect our own intentions. And I think that that movie is so uplifting in many ways because, I mean, he has nobody. He's completely all alone, shipwrecked. And then he becomes quite successful and a very spiritual man as he gets older. So he uses this experience and this challenge to actually, make himself successful and happy later on in the future. Wonderful movie, Life of Pi. The next one I would say is Life is Beautiful. Okay, so this is a foreign film by Roberto Benigni in 1997. He created this. Now, it actually stars Roberto in his own film. This movie can be hard to watch because it is about an innocent librarian, a Jewish librarian who was actually taken into the Holocaust, the Nazi concentration camps during the Holocaust with his family. And what he ends up doing is he creates this imaginary world for his son while he's in this Nazi concentration camp. And the relationship between his son and him is so beautiful. And the way that we as an audience are watching him have a smile on his face, and he's dancing and he's singing and he's playing, he's making it a game. It shows that you can take any terrible situation in your life and your perspectives really alter your experience around that life experience and that situation. Life is Beautiful is a very touching, very emotional film, but it is so beautiful in the way that it's done. And it is definitely up there for a movie for the soul. However, I will say, don't watch it if you're not in a place where you're very lighthearted, because it could be really hard for you to watch something that has to do with the Holocaust and the Nazi, the concentration camps, because it is really hard to watch. But because of this game that the father plays with his son throughout this experience, and he really does create beauty in a really ugly situation and a world. So it's just a really beautiful movie, and it makes you believe in the power of imagination and creativity. So I highly recommend that movie as well. especially if you are looking at the world and you feel like, oh, it's so ugly and there's so much terrible things that are going on in the world. Well, watch this movie and it will give you a whole other perspective in the way that you can see the world, even during terrible things like such as war. The next one I have is Pan's Labyrinth. Pan's Labyrinth makes my list. It was created in 2006 by Del Toro, and this movie makes my list because even though it is a dark fairy tale, meaning that the creatures are dark, it has a dark tone to it. It is about, a child that has a father that's an abusive military leader. And so there's a dark fairy tale surrounding it, but the ending is so beautiful and it releases your soul. It's an incredible experience. I'm not going to give it away too much, but you're actually moving with the character, and so there's this beautiful ending, but it's a dark fairy tale and it is beautifully done. I mean, Del Toro is amazing with his characters that he creates. So I definitely recommend this movie because if you pay attention, if you can last through the whole movie, because it's a little bit dark, if you can last through it, when you get to the ending and you watch to the very, very ending of what happens to her and where she goes and all that, I think that you will be fully uplifted. And I remember coming away from this movie, and I've watched it a couple times, having a smile on my face and a really a warm feeling in my heart. And it's once again one of those movies that takes something so horrible and ugly within reality, but then shows a truer spiritual reality that is far more beautiful. So highly recommend that as well. And we can talk about that if some of you want to suggest, maybe not. But I liked it. I did. The next movie I wanted to say was Leon the Professional. So Leon the Professional was another movie from 1994. This movie stars very young Natalie Portman when she first started out. She plays this young girl that becomes kind of in the care of a hitman who is named Leon. And because he makes his living killing others as an assassin, as a hitman, he has to take care of this child now. And that relationship between him and her really alters his perception and his view on life and his priorities too. And I mean, Natalie Portman is one of my favorite actresses, and to see her in this role starting out, I don't know if it was her first, but she was very young in this one. It's a great movie. It has such an uplifting message of change, of redemption, and just that relationship that they develop is a really interesting one because he's a hitman. So he's not like a normal father figure, but she also has a little edge to her too. It's Natalie Portman. So as cool as she is, she plays it really well in this movie. And I love this movie. And I think that it's one of those movies that makes you really, see beauty in the world where maybe it's not, or maybe you just can't see it at that point, and it shows you where it can be hidden. The next one I have is Contact, 1997. This one has Jodie Foster and Matthew McConaughey in it. And I think I've spoken about it on my channel before because I just got the book written by Carl Sagan, because it was originally written by Carl Sagan and then it was later turned into a movie. Warning, the movie and the book are very different, but the overall message behind it is very similar. The idea that Jodie Foster plays this NASA scientist, or she's an astrophysicist, I believe. She's looking for intelligent life. So she sits and listens to signals out there in Mexico, and she's listening, and eventually she hears a signal come back. And the signal that comes back is actually blueprints for a machine to go, they don't know where. Well, they do find out that it's Vega, the star Vega in the Lyra constellation. So the whole challenge of making this device, but also, the decision to go or not happens. And there's a lot of, spiritual questioning between science and religion and spirituality in general. And the change that overcomes the character Ellie, who's played by Jodie Foster, when she gets in that device and she heads over to Vega, is remarkable, because she gets to see the universe, in a very profound way. And what she experiences changes her forever. And so at first she's very much kind of an atheist, and she shows this like no nonsense side towards spirituality and religion. She feels that everything has some type of answer, for some kind of miraculous spiritual thing and phenomena. And then when she has this experience, it completely changes her. And she learns, very much like the character Matthew McConaughey represents, is that spirituality and science are not mutually exclusive, that they actually come together at some point. And she has that experience. And we watch that movie while it's happening. And it is fabulous. It's one of those movies that touches me so much, especially when she meets the extraterrestrials from Vega and the message that they give her. Highly recommend it. It's great, especially if we are dealing with some extraterrestrials trying to connect with us now. This is a great movie to watch to kind of remind you a little bit about what's going on in the bigger picture of the universe. It's a great movie. The next one I have is What Dreams May Come, written in 1998 or directed in 1998. Robin Williams and Cuba Gooding Jr. and a bunch of others are in this movie. This movie is one that will stay with you for a while. It has lots to do with death and the afterlife, and the idea of kind of questioning what the afterlife is. It is beautiful. It's done in a very artistic way. The visionary element behind the movie is wonderful to see. And Robin Williams, he's a joy to watch. I mean, I always feel sad when I think about how he has left our earth already, because I enjoy almost every single one of his movies he's ever been in. I love Robin Williams, and I think he has a little bit of that fairy soul within him. He just has that type of soul, and I'm always drawn to his movies. What Dreams May Come is a fabulous movie to uplift you, and especially if you've ever lost a loved one, and if you're dealing with that and you just need that uplift, What Dreams May Come is a very good one for you. The next one I would say is Hearts of Atlantis. Oh, I just watched it today. I love this movie so much. It has Anthony Hopkins in it, and Anton Yelchin, the young boy who actually passed away a couple years ago in real life. And I love all the movies he's in as well. He is a little boy in this movie, and he does an amazing job with Anthony Hopkins. Now, this movie is a story. It's a short story written by Stephen King. And I'm not a huge fan of the Dark Tower series of Stephen King's, but I love this story. This story deals with a man named Ted Bronigan, who is a psychic. Now, there's something that's interesting that's happening in this movie. I think the director did this on purpose, because not everybody would watch the Dark Tower series of Stephen King and understand what's going on. And because the movie is just that short story, what the movie is doing is it's showing a psychic that is being used by the CIA or the FBI. But in the actual Dark Tower series, there's more to it, that actually the low men that are after Ted Bronigan, who is a psychic, they want him for something far more nefarious and insidious that has to do with breaking a psychic barrier between hell and earth, because they want to release the demons to earth. So they're trying to break that barrier between the dimensions. And they can only do it through psychic power. But with Ted Bronigan, in this movie, they're using it more in the idea that the FBI is after him because it's during the Communist War, and they're trying to steal secrets, I guess, from Russia. So there's a really beautiful relationship that develops between this man who's very alone and introverted, and not introverted in the same in the way that we might think, but he has remained keeping to himself all his life because he has such a strong psychic power, and he knows that others are after him to use him for it. So he kind of keeps to himself, but then he meets this young boy that also has a special gift too. He's a brilliant little boy. He's very smart. He's very intelligent. And so he's very perceptive, and he sees through Ted. So Ted can't hide his gifts from him. He sees right through it. And so this beautiful friendship develops, and he helps him. And I'm getting teary-eyed just thinking about it. And the ending is really beautiful. It's really beautiful. You know, it doesn't end in the way that you might want it to, but nevertheless, the message behind it is very powerful for the soul. And I just really appreciate this movie a lot. So I watch it a couple times. Every time I feel like I just kind of want to remind myself of this type of beauty in the world, because I know that sometimes when you have certain weird abilities or skills, you know, sometimes it's not understood by everybody. And so there's this really powerful friendship that develops between these two souls. And I like what the director did, because you're not necessarily going to understand the whole Stephen King Dark Tower series. That is really what this short story is about. But the director did it in a nice way where it's mysterious. It may make you want to pick up a Stephen King Dark Tower series book and figure out what the heck is going on. But at the same time, you can watch the movie on its own. You don't have to read anything else about Stephen King, The Dark Tower. But there is a new movie that's out called The Dark Tower. And if you watch that, then you should be able to understand where Ted Bronigan fits in and what his character is all about. Well done movie, really powerful. And I like the quote that Ted says in it. He says, "She has the heart of a lion." And that's something that stays with him, you know, for all his life. Talking about this young girl that is the love of his life, and he never forgets her. So yeah, it's a great movie. Next one, Dead Poets Society, I put down. This was a 1989 movie. Robert Williams, of course. He inspires his students by teaching poetry. It's an all-boys school. It's very stuffy, and they are very bored of learning, and there's no joy, there's no passion. Robert Williams plays this teacher that comes into this classroom and starts teaching them literature and poetry in a way that infuses these boys with passion, and how he affects their life is in many different ways, but it's beautiful. And Robert Williams plays a very inspiring character. I actually have a couple of movies with him in here. I really love him. Now, one of the movies I just wanted to talk about, but it's hard to find because you can't really find it anymore. I was looking for it. It's called Toys, and it's a really old one. In the 90s it was made, but Robin Williams plays this toy maker where he's the son of a wealthy toy maker, and what happens with the company and how he has to fight to keep the integrity of the original intent of the toys is a really great movie, and Robert Williams plays a great character in that as well. So Dead Poets Society is a fabulous movie about passion and inspiring others to feel that there's more to life than just, you know, going through school, getting a degree. He infuses them with a purpose, a sense of purpose. and helps him find beauty in poetry. It's great. The next one I have is The Crow, 1994, The Crow, with the late Brandon Lee. This movie I am always drawn to. I watched it once and it just never went away within me. I think it represents a really beautiful aspect of dark, romantic, gothic type of style. Brandon Lee does a phenomenal job of playing Eric Draven, who loses his fiance on a Halloween night. They're actually both murdered by a band of hooligans in the city on Halloween night. So he actually comes back from the dead to revenge her and on Halloween night. And the way that it's done, it's not a horror movie. It's not like a thriller. It's more like a dark, romantic, gothic tale. And the message within it is really powerful, that, the idea that love never dies and what he has to go through. And I think he does a beautiful job. And although that was his last movie because he was killed during the filming of that movie, it's a very powerful movie. And I think he definitely did it justice. And if it was the last thing that he ever made, well, he left Earth with leaving us behind a beautiful rendition of Eric Draven, which was actually a comic book. And so this is a fabulous movie. If you just want something that touches your soul, it's a little darker in terms of style. It's got that Batman Gotham type of look to it. So everything's really dark. It's foggy, it's rainy, and he has this white kind of mime makeup on him, and he's a very handsome man in the movie. And unfortunately, it's so sad that he ends up getting killed during it, but it's a very powerful movie. I think that there's a lot of energy behind it. It's hard to explain. It's just one of those movies that I had to put down as one good for the soul, The Crow. The next one I have is Ever After, A Cinderella Story, 1998. Drew Barrymore's movie, and Angelica Houston. Now, I know that there was a recent Cinderella one that was a Disney version, and I thought it was beautiful. Cate Blanchett did a wonderful job as the evil stepmother. But I put down this one because this one is very interesting. It's trying to retell the story without the magical pumpkins and the mice changing into the coaches, and no fairy godmother. And actually it has Leonardo da Vinci within it. And it has Cinderella as a very wise, well-read woman that stands up. And that's how she meets the prince, is she stands up for her people who are commoners. And so there's this really powerful message. I really like the way that they portrayed her. And there's still an element of magic, but it's not the type of magic that happens normally in a Cinderella story. So I really liked this. I thought this was well done by Drew Barrymore. It's one of her better movies. And Angelica Houston is amazing as the evil stepmother. Some really great acting jobs within this movie, but it really has a powerful message, especially when you look at the character that Cinderella plays and how the prince, what I love about it is that in this movie, the prince is not falling over her because she's beautiful, although she is. And Leonardo da Vinci, he makes this amazing masterpiece painting of her that looks like the Mona Lisa. And Drew Barrymore has a little bit of that Mona Lisa type of face. So it looks very, very accurate in history. But it's a beautiful tale because the prince falls in love with her mind, and he says that what did he say? There's a quote. He's like, "It's your mouth that has me hypnotized." Not the shape of her lips. It's what she says, what comes out of her, what's radiating from her soul. It's her passion and her her caring for others so much, even though she herself is treated like a slave in her own home by her evil stepmother and stepsisters. Wonderful, I think, a wonderful rendition of Cinderella. And it definitely gives you a warm feeling in your heart after you watch it. The next one I have is The Beautiful Fantastic. This is a movie that maybe not many people know. I wanted to put it out here. It was made in 2016. It's on Netflix, and it's about a quiet, really odd, kind of introverted girl that doesn't want to talk to anybody, but she slowly befriends her neighbor, an older gentleman, who challenges her to take care of her garden, because she lets her garden just kind of go to waste, and it's a beautiful space. And so he teaches her how to take care of nature and how to make this garden a beautiful place. And while she's tending the garden and learning how to make it grow and all this, she's also finding love. You know, it's helping her grow. It's like a beautiful, powerful message that when you help the plants grow and you help other things grow, you yourself grow at the same time, because everything is interconnected. Really great movie, and just beautiful to watch. I absolutely love the garden that they create. She is writing a children's book that has a beautiful story to it. Some really beautiful imagery and art within this movie. Really well done. The Beautiful Fantastic. I highly recommend. The next one is Harry Potter movies. Of course, I had to put them down. I didn't put Lord of the Rings because you all know that all of those movies will do it for you. But Harry Potter, of course, too. The power of friendship, magic, and all of that is always heartwarming. And if you can watch them all in a marathon, enjoy, just like Lord of the Rings. Enjoy. The next I put down is Legend. In 1985, this is an 80s movie, Tom Cruise. And I have a video if you ever want to watch it. It's my review on Legend. It's like a really full discourse on, on Legend and what it means to me. But this movie is really beautiful because he's working with the fairies to actually bring back the light of the unicorns, because one of the unicorns becomes shot down by the devil and the demon creatures. So you have the dark against the light. And then there's a beautiful message of how they work together and how there is this power of light in the world, and just the quest. I mean, I think it's just beautifully done, and it really does fill your heart. There's some moments when they're seeing the unicorn and the music and the fairies, it's like overwhelming for your fey soul. If you are already attracted to fairies and fairyland, this movie can really it can really put you up there into high vibrations. So Legend is definitely one of my favorites, and definitely check out one of my movies, my videos about how I discuss the important messages and the meanings behind Legend and the themes that are, explored within the movie. The next one I have is Good Will Hunting. Okay, Matt Damon's movie, and also Robert Williams. This was directed in 2006, or came out in 2006. This movie is one of those movies I've watched, and it really leaves a lasting impression. It's subtle, and it might seem like a guy's movie at first because it's like an all-male cast except for Minnie Driver. But Robin Williams plays this counselor, this psychiatrist that starts to help this young boy that seems like he has an emotional wall up, and he doesn't let anyone in. And the way that he eventually helps to bring down this wall is just beautiful to watch. The process of watching Matt Damon's character grow up in this movie is beautiful. And it helps you to get a perspective of other people, that if they're acting standoffish or aggressive or like they don't want to talk about their feelings, or they're just one of those people that never wants to really express themselves or show how they're feeling. They could be really hurting inside. So it helps you cultivate empathy to understand where people are coming from when they're always joking around, and when they don't want to be serious, or they're also really harsh with people in their life. You have to understand that everybody's fighting a battle. And so you see Will's battle that he's fighting, and you find the goodness within him, although in the beginning it's really hard to watch at first. But it's a great movie, and of course Robert Williams does a great job of being that character that, you know, just helps him realize the good within him. Next one I have is The Theory of Everything. Came out in 2014, and it is about the life of the astrophysicist Stephen Hawking, who passed away. This movie is all about his successes, all about his challenges of growing up with ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease. And he meets a woman that really loves him for him. Now, there's a part where that relationship starts to fall apart, if any of you know. But what I found is so beautiful is, like, even though that relationship did not last, they still kept a friendship. And the man that Stephen Hawking was shows, you know, his determination and his will to become such a successful figure within our science now. And I think this movie is a really beautiful movie that really does uplift the soul. And Stephen Hawking's his actual words come forward at the end, and he has this beautiful message to leave everybody about life in general. And it is really uplifting. And especially when you look at him as being so challenged, where he had to speak through a computer, and yet he still did so much. And so it shows that anybody who is born with any type of situation, any type of hardship, they can always persevere. And that's what life's about. You have your challenges, and it's how you overcome them that create this wonderful journey. You know, and it's hard. It's very tough, but it can be very beautiful too. That movie is great. The next one I have is Silver Linings. Silver Linings is with Jennifer Lawrence and Bradley Cooper. Now, the first time I watched it, I wasn't so into it. Second time I watched it, I got a lot out of it. I saw a man that was coming out of rehab. He has some emotional issues. He was dealing with depression because, well, I don't want to give it too much away, but he was having some problems with his wife, and he was sent to stay and get rehab because he didn't know how to handle it very well. So when he comes out, it's about him trying to get his life back together again. But the type of character that he plays, where he's very honest and almost too honest, where people aren't ready or prepared for what he's going to say. But he meets Jennifer Lawrence, who is equally like his match, where she just speaks from her heart. She doesn't even have a filter. And he has even less of a filter than she does. And it's this friendship that develops, and at first it was hard, but it starts to develop. And it's about him getting his life back together again. And you find yourself rooting for him because you see that he has good intentions. You want the best for him, although he sometimes just makes so many mistakes. So you're watching it, you're like, no, don't do that. But you're rooting for him. And I think that it's a really uplifting movie because it shows, once again, that you can go through so much and have some real emotional problems and emotional ups and downs, and then you can find beauty again. You can find purpose. You can find true happiness once again. And what I like about it is that it's not just about the romance that possibly develops between them, but he starts to develop a relationship with his father, Robert De Niro, who is brilliant in the role and really funny. And the whole, there's a very interesting underlying theme surrounding coincidences and synchronicities, and how, like, when you're in flow with each other, you make things happen together. So that's the thing, is Robert De Niro kept on saying, well, I want to be a family again, because then my favorite baseball team will be winning. So there's this underlying theme of like how energy moves together, and how we're more powerful when we're supported rather than when we're all on our own. It's a really interesting movie about family and about friendship and ultimately about love. But I really did like it. You do see the silver lining, and that's the title of the movie, but it's true. The silver lining through the, the dark clouds in the sky. You see the sunshine poking through the silver lining, or the moonlight. The next one is The Fundamentals of Caring with Paul Rudd. I love Paul Rudd. I find him so charming in all of his movies. Paul Rudd, Selena Gomez actually plays in this movie, and she does a phenomenal job in her part with Craig Roberts. Now, this movie I have watched a couple times because I enjoy it so much. It's so funny. It's witty. It's adorable. Paul Rudd is a retired writer that finds a job in caring for a 18-year-old boy with muscular dystrophy. And so he has to do everything for him, to the point where he has to wipe him after he goes to the bathroom. I mean, this boy is completely paralyzed from the neck down. So he has a hard time, kind of slowly getting into this role of caretaker. But Paul Rudd's character is, he's so likable, and he does a really great job of taking this boy under his wing. But what's really great about it is that Craig Roberts, the 18-year-old boy, he wants to see the world. Like, he doesn't want to just sit at home all the time. So Paul Rudd puts him in the car, and they go for a road trip to see all these roadside attractions, like the biggest ball of yarn or the biggest cow in a state. And so he takes them to see all these silly, like, roadside attractions, and you just watch their relationship develop, and it's adorable. And Selena Gomez ends up being a hitchhiker. They pick her up, and she's fun to watch within it. And yeah, it's a really great movie. The fundamentals of caring, and what it means to care for somebody and really, put others before you, and how much that affects their life. Like, the things that Paul Rudd does for this boy is immeasurable. And it reminds you how little acts of kindness like that go a long way for those that might not be able to do what they want to without your help. And so whatever you can do for others, try to do, and it is rewarding for you as well once you see that smile on another person's face, or how much you have affected them. It's truly a beautiful movie, and funny. Really, really funny. Paul Rudd is hilarious. The next one I have is Dark Crystal, Age of Resistance. I did a video on it. It was, okay, so I say both of them are great. The one in 1982, the original movie, is fabulous, but the Dark Crystal, The Age of Resistance Netflix miniseries is also great. The message behind it about nature and about the idea of, just harmony, living in harmony with nature and your planet. And not only that, but just the idea of different castes and how we're all equal, but there's like this illusion, and sometimes it's because there's a common enemy that's making you feel like you're different from each other. And it's a fabulous story about redemption, once again, because it's about these beings that came to Thra, the planet, and have taken over and have basically almost like enslaved the beings of Thra. But it's it's an interesting story of redemption, because then they start to learn who they really are and who they have forgotten who they were for many, many, many ages. And so they get back to that wisdom within themselves with the help of some friends. But it is a great, great series that was originally designed by Jill Henson, and Brian Froud did the character design. Fabulous. And you can watch my video on it if you want some more information. Next one I have is Love Actually. Love Actually with Keira Knightley and Hugh Grant is one of those movies that it's kind of like one of those movies where you see lots of different relationships at the same time or at different times, but you see it all in one movie. So we follow 8 couples in their relationships, and it's hilarious. It's British humor, so it's really funny. And you have the adorable Keira Knightley, and you have Hugh Grant, who can be very funny in his characters that he plays. And the British humor is quite witty, and but it's very touching. It's very, very heartwarming and touching. Emma Thompson is within it as well. She's a great actress. And there's a very strong message about love that connects all of these stories together. And so you're watching all of these relationships play out, but there's a general theme about the power of love. It is one of my favorite. I own it and I watch it. And it's a little bit of a holiday movie because it takes place during Christmas time and the holidays, but you can watch it at any time and just feel the love. Number 33 I have is Arrival, starring Amy Adams, Forrest Whitaker, and Jeremy Renner, who played Green Arrow. So this movie is, I think, a really beautiful movie, and it's very, very moving. It is not one of those movies that might make you feel good or happy because you're laughing. It's actually not funny. It's very deep. It's very powerful. It is about alien ships that have just appeared, and they ask the linguist, Amy Adams, which she's playing, to come and try to decipher the alien messages that these aliens are trying to give, or they think they are trying to give. All you see is ink blots everywhere because they're like these octopus-looking aliens, and they don't look like normal humanoids, and they don't speak like humanoids do. So she's trying to figure out through symbols and through the way that they write and the way that they interact with her what they're trying to tell humanity. And it's just a beautiful movie. It makes you think about time and emotions in a different way, and it makes you think about space in a new way too, and your perception on things. And I think that's the whole point of it. But it's a great movie, and I'm very grateful that it's here on Earth for us to have. And there's some very strong messages about how together as a world we need to work together to get things done. And I think that it's very uplifting for the soul in many ways, because Amy Adams plays a mother who experiences a very hard loss. She loses her daughter, but the message that she receives about that experience is something that can help anybody who has ever experienced some kind of tragedy in their life. So Arrival is definitely one of mine, my movies for my soul that I highly recommend to others. Number 34 is Abyss, another alien movie. This movie I love. Now, I saw it when I was younger because it's like an early 90s movie, but it just never went away. Never, ever went away. And it has Ed Harris in it, who does a great job. It's about these deep sea divers that are trying to go into like the deeper trenches of the oceans. And they actually make contact with alien civilization that's living down there and has been there for quite a long time. And what I like about this movie is that they go into depth about the information about the aliens. Some alien movies, which I don't like, is when they skip that information. Like, I want to know more about the aliens. I want to know more about how they work and what they're made of. And so there's more of this scientific exploration of the aliens. And you just get this more of a relationship between the aliens and the humans. And the ending is amazing. Amazing. What an amazing message for humanity is that ending. I think it's very powerful. And although, maybe some people might think, well, maybe it's not something that's good for the soul, I feel like it's uplifting because it's about having another intelligent species that is able to see the good of humanity, even through all of the nastiness and the bad things of humanity. It's a powerful movie, The Abyss. Now, I have to tell you something. You might have to go to YouTube to actually watch the unedited ending, because in the newer versions, they have cut out the ending for some reason. And I think it's because they're trying to be less... I think they're trying to be sensitive because there's a great tsunami wave at the end. And I think that they're trying to maybe cut that out for some reason. I don't really know why they have two different versions now. But if you go to YouTube and you look for the unedited ending of The Abyss, then you can watch the true ending. And that's what ending I grew up with, and which meant so much to me. So I love The Abyss. The next one, I would say, let's keep on the space theme, is Interstellar. Interstellar with Anne Hathaway and Matthew McConaughey is one of those movies that I think is a very powerful sci-fi movie, but there's some really deep messages about love and about trans-dimensional beings or multi-dimensions and what it means. The whole story is that Earth is dying, that there's this huge dust bowl that's taking over the Earth, and they no longer have fertile crops to grow enough food. So Earth is dying, so they're trying to find a way to, bring humans to another planet. And so there's this quest for NASA to find another planet, another home for humanity. And it's a really beautiful relationship between Matthew McConaughey, the astronaut that goes with them, and also his daughter, and who later on becomes Jessica Chastain. And they really have this amazing relationship together. And there are some really powerful parts and scenes when they get into space, showing how connected love really makes us, and what it means. And I just think that it's a beautifully done movie. I think that there's very few sci-fi movies out there right now that can capture that type of beauty. There is another one that I'll recommend. I don't have it on my list because I wasn't sure if people would be really interested in it, because it's not... Okay, so it can be kind of scary when you first watch it. It's called Sunshine. And Sunshine it's called a sci-fi horror thriller. But what it's about is the sun is dying, and so they send a team on Icarus to go and restart the sun. They're going to basically drop off a bomb into the sun to restart it again. What ends up happening is this really, it can be kind of scary, and it is considered more of a horror movie because of the effects. But the overall message of the sun and light, and how there was like this amazing quote in the very beginning, the idea of like being so close to the sun was something that was regarded to be almost like a floating floating tank, like of floating deprivation, like where you're in total darkness and you're relaxed and there's nothing around you, so it can help you get into that meditative state. But he says, no, it's not like that. It's that light becomes you. You become one with the sun when you're that close to the sun and you experience that brightness. So there's a very deep spiritual message within Sunshine, but I did not put it on my list just because I thought, well, maybe it could be a little dark for people. But I highly recommend it. If you like Interstellar, I think you'll like Sunshine. It's just a little bit more in the horror sci-fi genre, but there's also a spiritual message too as well. So it's a good movie. It's powerful. Okay, the next one is Seeking a Friend for the End of the World with Steve Carell and also Keira Knightley. So this movie I recently found, and it was so funny. It's very adorable. It's about these two misfits in society. Like, they don't really make friends easily. And I guess the end of the world is rumored to happen, that there's going to be a huge comet that's going to hit the world. And so there's this inquiry that's put out to find a friend for the end of the world, somebody to hang out with. And so these two kind of find each other, and the relationship that develops between them is quite sweet to watch. And I think the chemistry between the two, it just warms your soul. And it's a great film because it has some really powerful messages about love and about friendship and what it means, and the priorities that we start to have when we have our mortality in our face. You know, when you think that the end of the world is going to happen, what kind of things are people starting to think about? But it's funny too. It's really funny. So it's not dark or heavy. It's actually a very cute comedy, but it's also very powerful too as well. Next one I said is Practical Magic. Practical Magic with Nicole Kidman and Sandra Bullock. Now, the reason why I think that this one affected me so much is because I have a little bit of a past with Wicca and being a white witch and, into magic and the occult. Practical Magic is about two sisters who are witches who live with their eccentric aunt. And it's a small town, so there are rumors about them. And so they are known as these strange women that you don't talk to. But what's beautiful about it is that you see their relationship, and you see also a really difficult time for Sandra Bullock. She loses her husband. And through that process, she's also helping her sister as well, because her sister is having a harder time, Nicole Kidman, in many ways, in love. And so the practical magic element is that they're doing magic, but it's the type of magic that is about synchronicity and calling things in and manifesting things. And I think that there's some really true magic that's actually happening within this movie. And it shows how magic sometimes happens, where it's not so much doing a spell and then having something work out right away. It's about doing a spell or setting your intention to set something forward in your life, and then watching how certain things start to align to create what it is that you're actually looking for, so that that spell actually comes true. So practical magic is a good one, especially for those that are witches. I really enjoy this. And the ending is great because I think it's a happy ending for everyone. The next one I have is Lion, starring Dev Patel from Slumdog Millionaire. This movie is hard at first because it's about a little Indian boy who gets separated from his family. And so he grows up without his family, and all of the adventures and the struggles that he goes through, and how as he gets to be an adult and he's living in America, he's still searching for his family. He's still trying to look for them, and what he has to do to look for them from being separated as a young boy is remarkable. And it's just a great movie. It's really beautifully done, very powerful. I really enjoyed it. And Dev Patel did an amazing job within that movie. Lion, that's what it's named. The next one I have is Our Idiot Brother. Okay, another Paul Rudd movie with Zoe Deschanel and Elizabeth Banks. Okay, there's a ton of actors in this movie. I couldn't even write them all down. It is a comedy. I have watched it several times. It is so funny. First of all, Ned, Paul Rudd's character, he gets busted for selling cannabis to a cop that is off duty. And when he comes out of jail, he is like such an innocent person. He never did anything wrong except for that. He only smokes weed, I guess. And so when he comes out of jail, he has a hard time finding a job and things like that. So he has to live with his sisters, and he has a lot of sisters. Paul Rudd plays a character that is an idealist. He is an optimist. He is super nice, and he has very good intentions for everybody he meets. And it gets him in trouble. It actually gets him in trouble in life. So he keeps on having these problems in his life because he has so many good intentions and he's a nice person. But the message is really powerful because at the end, you learn that all of those, okay, so other people didn't appreciate his niceness, or okay, so he maybe made some mistakes and he said things that he shouldn't have, and he's gotten into trouble now, and he made his sisters mad. Okay, but at the end, it all like adds up. It's like that good karma that he racked up being so nice finally comes back to him in the end. And I just love this movie. It's called Our Idiot Brother. And I will have to say, I am reading the book called The Idiot by the man who did Crime and Punishment, Fyodor Dostoevsky or something. I think he's a Russian writer. I'm sorry, I can't say his name properly. He wrote this book called The Idiot, and it is about a very good intentioned prince that wanted to see the beauty in everything and wants the best in the world. And it's a very personal novel, I heard. It's based off of him. So you get a little bit of a glimpse into the writer who wrote Crime and Punishment and all those other stories. It's very personal. And the novel is kind of a little bit about like this movie where even though some people may make fun of him, or some people may not see his good intentions, or he may even make mistakes, in the end, because of everything that he has done with a good heart and sincere will, it all comes back. So he's not an idiot. And so it's kind of it's like a play on the word. And so it kind of seems a little similar to Our Idiot Brother, but that's a great movie. If you're looking for a wonderful movie for the soul, and if you're somebody that felt like maybe you were taken advantage of in your life and you've been a good person and you've done things for others and people just, took it and took advantage of you, and sometimes you feel like you're underappreciated, watch this movie, because this movie is just a really great movie to help you with that. Okay, the next one I have is Matilda. Okay, so Matilda was one of my favorite books with The Hobbit when I was growing up. Matilda, written originally by Roald Dahl, is a newer movie that was actually directed by Danny DeVito and has Mara Wilson in it, who plays Matilda. Matilda is about a young girl that has extraordinary gifts and abilities, and she's so smart and so intelligent that her mind, she starts to actually gain the ability to use telekinesis. And so the whole thing is that she starts to develop that power because she starts to create a plan to get out of her horrible situation she's in. Unfortunately, Matilda has terrible parents that don't recognize her wonderful gifts. And then she also is being sent into a school that has a terrible principal, Miss Trunchbull, who hates children in general. And so what Matilda does with her powers and how she helps herself out of that situation and also others who are close to her is wonderful. It's a great story about getting what you deserve in the end. And it's a great book as well as a movie. I love it. Next one I have is Powder. So Powder, which was played by Sean Patrick Flanery. Powder is one of those movies where it's a very, I think it's a powerful movie. I don't know if it's a cult classic, but I would say that it's one of those movies that sticks with you. It's about a boy that was born with vitiligo, I think, and he has, or no, not vitiligo, albinoism. So he's completely all white and has no pigment to him. But not only that, he also was born with special gifts with like electromagnetism. He himself acts as like a magnet to metal and to electricity. He's got some really interesting gifts. And so you don't quite know where he's from. Maybe he's from another planet. They don't go into it too deeply. But what he struggles with in a small town that has prejudices and are closed-minded is a powerful message for those that feel alone in life, or maybe they're a little different. It's a great message to just keep being you. Who cares? Yes, I know you might be bullied, but in the end, those who are truly open-minded and can see the beauty of you, they will see it regardless. You never ever have to hide. Never ever have to hide. And this movie Powder, I think, is very powerful, especially in the end. And you know, it really makes you question about the universe and what our bodies are made of, and what eventually maybe we could, the powers that we can all have. So it's a great movie for that. And I think that it's just good for the soul, because especially if you ever feel lonely in the world, and if you feel like you could see things in the world that maybe others can't, then it's a great movie for you. Okay, next one is The Green Mile with Tom Hanks and a bunch of other people. Oh, The Green Mile. The Green Mile, I actually bought the book. It is written by Stephen King. I guess I am a Stephen King fan. So it was written by Stephen King, became a movie. The Green Mile is one of those movies that really stays with you. It really affected me as a younger child when I was watching it. Well, not too young. I was like in my teens, I think. So Tom Hanks is a prison guard, captain of a prison, and they get a new inmate, this big African-American man that is said to do a horrible, horrible crime. Well, Tom Hanks starts to get to know this man, and he starts understanding him in a different way, and he thinks like there's no way this man could have done this crime, because you start to see this innocent spirit within this inmate. And his name's Coffee, John Coffee. And John Coffey has remarkable gifts and abilities. We don't know where he came from. We have no indication, so it's mysterious. But Tom Hanks starts to see that there's something really special about this man, although he's on death row, because he was said to be guilty of killing 2 young girls. And the relationship that develops between him and the other inmates and the prison guards is beautiful. It's a tough movie to watch. It's emotional, but it is beautiful on a spiritual level, because you see this power of John Coffey, and you see the powerful spirit of those that have, you know, just good intentions and goodwill towards others. It's a really powerful movie. And I always think that it uplifts my soul. I feel knowing that there's a soul like John Coffey out there, or that even in imagination or creativity, that knowing that a character like him could actually be thought of and be wrote down in a book. He exists within my mind. I love that. Beautiful, beautiful soul. Absolutely wonderful. The Green Mile, I recommend. Next one is Little Miss Sunshine. Little Miss Sunshine, Steve Carell again, Toni Collette, and Abigail Breslin, that adorable girl who played Little Miss Sunshine herself. So this movie is a comedy, but it's about a family trying to get to a beauty pageant. And it's just quirky. It's eccentric. It's weird. It's not your typical beauty pageant at all. And the routine that Abigail Breslin comes up with, the little girl with little glasses, is just adorable with her grandfather. But it's funny. It's funny, and the message of family and support and love within this movie is so powerful. It just, I think it's a great movie. So Little Miss Sunshine definitely got my vote. Next one I have is The Mystical Laws anime. Okay, so The Mystical Laws is this anime that I found of a being from Lyra, from Vega, that comes to Earth, and how she meets this person that's supposed to give Earth the mystical laws in order to help Earth consciousness basically evolve. It's an amazing anime, and especially for those who are starseeds, I think that it's a great movie. I just recently found it. I was like, oh, wow, this movie is for me. I love it. The mystical laws that are put throughout the anime are laws that you can actually live by. Like, they're very wise, very wisely said, and they're great spiritual reminders. And it's a beautiful anime. They did a great job with the animation itself. I really enjoyed it. The next one is The Secret Garden, 1993. This was made. So this is an old one, the 90s here. Sarah from India. Now, it's based on a book as well, but the movie itself is really well done. I always loved this movie. Sarah from India becomes an orphan because her parents actually die in India from cholera, and she has to live with her uncle in the English countryside. Well, she lives with her uncle in this huge mansion. I don't think it's a castle, it's like a mansion. And there is this unattended garden that she discovers. She is kind of a quiet child, and she doesn't have the best personality at first. Nobody really wants to be her friend. She's known as quite contrary Mary. How does your garden grow? That's kind of like how they make fun of her. So she has this kind of difficult personality at first, and nobody wants to be your friend, and it's hard for her to warm up to anybody. And she finds this unattended garden, and it becomes her secret space and her place to help the garden grow. And like I said in the other movie, once you help nature grow, it helps you grow too. And you see that also in prison. They're doing that now with prisoners, because when prisoners are working on gardens, they're actually learning a lot about themselves, and they're growing themselves. So everything is connected in that way. So The Secret Garden is all about that, and how she meets the son of her uncle, her cousin, and the relationship that develops between them. Oh, it's just a great movie. And there's this like creepy kind of ghost story or mystery that's inside of this story as well. And she's trying to find out, why is the garden closed? What happened in the garden? Why can't you go in the garden anymore? But she sneaks in the garden and she makes it beautiful. And the ending is really wonderful because it does a lot for all the characters involved in that mansion. So I love that story. The next one is Stardust. Stardust with Claire Danes, and written originally by Neil Gaiman. I love this story. Now, Stardust, the movie, is a little different than the book because I have read both. Michelle Pfeiffer plays this witch that is looking for the heart of a star. The heart of a star. Now, this is an interesting thing. Stars themselves are people. And so Claire Danes is actually a star named Vane, and she fell as a shooting star or falling star. She fell to Earth. And these witches, they live off the hearts of stars because it keeps them beautiful and immortal. And so it's this amazing fantasy story, but I think the messages are so deep, and I love what Vane represents in terms of her power. There's this one quote where Dustin Hoffman, he plays like this kind of kooky character that they meet to help them on this quest to run away from the witches or do whatever they need to do to get away from the witches. And there's this quote where I guess he's looking at Claire Danes and she's like glowing. She starts to glow because she's so happy with this boy that she meets after a sort of difficult relationship at first. And so she's hugging or she's dancing with this boy, and Dustin Hoffman is looking at her. And I think he's saying, like, you need to do what you do best, Vane. Glow, you know, and so what it's saying is that stars as people, they emit light when they are truthful about their feelings and when they are giving love. So the more truthful she is, the more in love that she becomes, the more she glows. It's a beautiful message. And yeah, I really like that story a lot. And it just makes you feel good. And the ending is fabulous. The next one is Love, sci-fi movie. So this movie is free on YouTube. I think it has Spanish subtitles if you want to see it, because it's hard to find on Netflix or Amazon. Love, it's all like capital letters. Love is, it's a very interesting movie about, basically it's like the end of the world again, or let's just say these astronauts go on a journey, some kind of quest, and they figure out, well, it's one last astronaut. He remains because he's all alone up there in space, and he figures out that there's no more Earth, that something happened to Earth, or at least maybe there's a great war that has killed many people off or something. And what ends up happening is he meets these extraterrestrials that are very, very advanced in their technology, and they have been watching humanity and kind of watching over humanity for a very long time, keeping records of their human experiences and stories, which they call love. That's the acronym is LOVE. I forgot what it stands for, but it's about the human experiences and stories. So in this movie, you see these different humans that are talking about experiences about life and what life means to them and the purpose for life and the purpose for love. And they're keeping record of all these human experiences because this is how they keep humanity alive, by keeping the stories and the experiences of humans alive, even though the human species is gone. It's a powerful movie. It's a great movie. So I highly recommend it, and it's free on YouTube if you want to look for it. It's called Love, Love, and you, like I said, you might find it with Spanish subtitles. Okay, 3 more. Just Mercy. Just Mercy just came out, and I absolutely loved it. Michael B. Jordan plays a lawyer. Jamie Foxx plays an innocent man that is in jail, or, well, you think he's innocent. But the mystery surrounding it is that Michael B. Jordan is playing a pro bono lawyer. He's basically working for an agency that is helping those that they think are innocent to get out of jail, that to giving them another chance to having an appeal, to listen to their, a judge listen to their case again, and finding that maybe the investigations were not done correctly. The movie is brilliant. The relationship between the lawyer and Jamie Foxx's family is amazing. Jamie Foxx himself, as a very toughened, hardened prisoner for many years, and how he slowly starts to trust him, and the relationship between the other inmates. It's a great movie. It really is. And it does show that, that justice can happen, with enough willpower, that even though some innocent people do get thrown into jail because human error and also biasness and prejudice that happens through judges and juries, there are also good people out there, like these lawyers and these agencies, that work to fight to get those that are innocent. So it shows this idea that truth always comes up to the surface, that you can't hide the truth for too long, that you some time later you'll have a soul that will work and do his best effort to pull all of that truth to the surface, because he believes that Jamie Foxx is innocent. And it is a great, great movie. Just Mercy. Definitely recommend it. And a real feel-good movie. I felt good after watching it. And I like that they were promoting this agency that helps others who are innocent get out of jail, that have lost many years of their life just because of wrongful convictions. So it's a fabulous movie. The next one is As Good as It Gets, with Jack Nicholson and Helen Hunt. Now, this movie is pretty funny. Jack Nicholson is a riot in this movie. He plays a very angry man with OCD. He cannot, make friends very easily because things just kind of blurt out of his mouth the first thing that he thinks of. And he meets a Helen Hunt, who is a waitress that is a single mom, and she has a very ill son. Well, after their relationship starts to develop, because something happens where he feels bad and he starts to help her son out with medical bills, there's a nice relationship that starts to happen. And you start to see, what I love about this movie is they can take a character like Jack Nicholson, and you know how he can play it, like as hateful as possible in the beginning. People do not like him at all. And they really show him as a bad guy in the beginning, but you start to see that there's a goodness within him, and you start to see that wall break down. And I love it when that wall starts crumbling down in characters, and you can see that. It's a great, great film, and really warms your heart. I love the ending in particular, where it's not overly sentimental or romantic, but there's a part where he makes her feel so good, because he himself is so hard on himself and others. Like, he doesn't pay compliments very much, but he sees in her that she's the greatest woman on earth. And because he recognizes that she's the greatest woman on earth, it makes him feel good about himself. So it's this really interesting thing where he himself can't handle compliments, and he himself doesn't think very highly of himself at all. He's not arrogant. He just doesn't think of himself in that way. But by being with her, who's a good person, and she really does a lot for others, and he can see that, it's this mirroring effect. It's like she has these qualities that he doesn't have, but because he notices that she has these qualities, he feels he has these qualities. So in a lot of ways, they complete each other. It's a really great movie. It's really well done. It's my husband's favorite movie. Holiday in the Wild, I put down as number 50. Okay, so Holiday in the Wild is one of those movies that I just kind of came up across it on Netflix. It has Rob Lowe and Kristen Davis. Kristen Davis plays a woman who was recently divorced. It's very much like Eat, Pray, Love, which is another great movie too. I highly recommend that as well. But I put this movie instead of Eat, Pray, Love because this movie is about her. She's a doctor, and she she all of a sudden loses her husband because he leaves her, and she wants to go to Africa because she's never gotten a chance to go to Africa, and I think they were supposed to in their marriage. So she goes to Africa and she stays at this elephant reserve where they are saving elephants from poachers. And she stays with these elephants, and she meets Rob Lowe, and a really nice relationship develops between them, and she starts to reprioritize her life around these elephants that she falls in love with. And you see beautiful Africa within this movie, so it's a really great scenery as well. And I really love it. Some other recommendations I did not put, but just two I wanted to mention was Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and House of Flying Daggers. Although they can be kind of tragic in many ways, and they're dealing with some deep issues of death and life, there's a beauty that's in these movies, like the way that the dancing is and the way that they do these weapon fighting scenes are so beautiful that you almost forget that it's about death. And so those movies are good for the soul too, because they're about honor, and they're about these really high ideals and values that these characters stand for. I really appreciate that. Okay, let's go to the comments now. Hopefully you wrote some of those down that you haven't gotten a chance to see. And I would love to hear if you have some recommendations, and we'll just talk about movies tonight. Why not? Peachy Fruit. So you're the first one about movies. I feel like the film Arrival is a beautiful film about language and connects the themes of time and understanding in an intelligent way. Yeah, it is. It's brilliant. It really is. I consider it like a fifth dimension movie, because I felt like when we watched that movie, it's like we get this confirmation that we're in the fifth dimension of entertainment world now. Like, this is how movies are going to be. This is how everything is going to be. They're going to be a lot more deeper, a lot more in depth. Hopefully, not all of them, but there will be some like that. And I just hope that it's like a diving board for Hollywood, that movies keep on growing from that place of where Arrival, I guess, started us, to look at things. It started a little bit with Interstellar, but Arrival, the complexity of the message is really something great. And it just only shows me that we have a lot more in store in the future in terms of entertainment and the topics that we explore together. Naren, Matrix. Oh yes, another Matrix lover, of course. Of course, yes, especially when he sees the city of light. I love it. And I mean, all the themes in Matrix, you can spend like a year looking at all the movies and then writing down all the different messages and the different themes and topics, because there's so much. And every time I watch The Matrix, and we always do like a marathon, I always find new things. It's a little bit like The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit too. I like that. I love it when I can watch a movie and find new things that I didn't focus on before. I love it. Peachy Fruit. I love Alas Unicorn. Yeah, and the book. I actually just got the book so that I could read it over the summer. So I'm hoping that the book will be as lovely as the movie. I'm sure it will. I heard the book is great. So I'm going to read that soon. Let's see. Who else has a movie here? Oh, Naren. That's a good one. Annihilation with Natalie Portman, the new one. And how they're going into this like new environment that's being created. It's almost like a terraforming is happening where they're changing the environment. The aliens are changing the environment so that they can live on Earth. But the message at the end, it gets really weird, because it's not at all like you think. It's not like a normal alien movie. It becomes something else, something much deeper. Yes, I definitely recommend it. I didn't add it to the list because I didn't think it was something heartwarming for the soul or good for the soul. But to me, I do like those movies because I love the exploration of the soul. So I don't know if it raises vibrations. There's some kind of scary parts in it, but at the same time, I think the message at the end has an ability to raise your vibrations spiritually, where you look at yourself in a little bit of a different way and you look at the universe in a different way. I agree. Naren, yeah, the end, the symbology is very intense. I agree. Yes, definitely. Yes, Shawshank Redemption. I'm glad you like it. Peachy Fruit. Yes, Shawshank Redemption. Yeah. Good. Yeah, I know. It's one of those movies where I'm like, do I want to put it down in this list? Yes, I do, because even though it's not beautiful, they're the themes of friendship, the themes of redemption, the themes of whatever the character Tim Robbins represents, that inner calm. Because I think it was Morgan Freeman who narrates it. And he says, there's something about him. He never lost his cool within the prison. It's like, I love it when characters are recognized for keeping their inner calm and inner peace. It's a great message for myself because sometimes I might not be able to keep my inner calm and inner peace. So I like seeing that in other characters where they're unfazed by their environment. It's a great message. Mm-hmm. Rain, Romeo and Juliet. I love that movie. I did want to put that down too. The newer one, right, with Leonardo and Claire Danes. Mm-hmm. That powerful scene when they're looking through the fish tank and Sade is playing "Kiss Me" or "Kissing You." Oof, that is a scene. That's a scene like a Arwen Aragorn in Lord of the Rings scene. That's very powerful. But the ending really bothers me just because it's so tragic. Shakespeare, the whole love. Oh, the whole star-crossed lover thing is sad. But it is a beautiful movie. I agree. Oh, The Fountain, you need to revisit. Yes, I watched it again this year because I watched it a couple years ago and it was good, but I wanted to see it again in a new perspective, and it is beautiful. This year, it is beautiful. When I first saw it, it was like, okay, that's good. I was blown away this year. And it's probably because I'm experiencing things a little bit higher now in ways like I think, I'm in the fifth dimension with a lot of people. And so when I'm looking at this movie, I'm seeing it in a different perspective, in a fifth dimensional perspective. And the messages about enlightenment and death and rebirth and reincarnation and infiniteness, oh, it's beautiful. The Tree of Life, unbelievable. Gorgeous movie. Gorgeous movie. Just the art direction within it as well, like the light and the golden light everywhere, and oh, it's beautiful. Mm-hmm. Muriel, that movie destroyed me. Oh, The Fountain. Is it The Fountain? Yeah, it can be really hard. So when I looked at it this time, I didn't focus it so much on the earthly relationship of loss, but I looked at it as their reincarnation of their past life and what that meant of her being the Queen of Spain, Isabella, and him, and what that meant. And that was really beautiful. So I kind of got over the sadness of it and helped. It is so beautiful. Yeah, it is so sad, but it is truly beautiful though. What's another one? Princess Mononoke, Naren. Oh, good. Good. I'm glad. Yeah, all his videos are amazing. I actually have a DVD set of all his videos. So I love Spirited Away, and I love what is that big fat little cat? Not little, giant cat in the forest. What is that name? I forgot what that name is. Spirited Away, Naruto? Is that what it is? I don't know. I forgot what his name is. But that's also a really powerful one too about nature. There's a lot of really great animes about nature. If you're like a fae soul and you really want to, you want your connection to nature to be manifested in a film, you'll see that in anime, and I love that. Let's see. You watched it 2,000 times, Naren? Oh, yeah. Mononoke, yeah. I've watched it a couple times. Rain, you like Life of Pi. Good. Yes. Life of Pi is amazing. It really is. It's one of those movies that it's really great. And the ending is unexpected, but I thought it was well received by me. I really enjoyed it. Rain, Natalie Portman, one of your favorite actresses. Yeah, I really enjoy her in all of her films that she does. She just has so much passion and intelligence and passion that goes into her characters. I really love it. She's very elvish to me too, like Keira Knightley. She has like that elvish kind of quality to her as well, and she's petite, but so she's more of like that nymph elvish type of character that you would think, because she's really small. She's like 5'3", but I think she's a fabulous actress. Pan's Labyrinth, Peachy Fruit. Yes, I love that dark fairy tale. I love it so much. And it's not so dark at the end, right? Yes, Contact is originally written by Carl Sagan, but Carl Sagan is no longer with us. So the director, he adapted it to the novel written by Carl Sagan. So the novel is different, but the message, the overall message about science and spirituality and the character Ella's experience meeting these beings and going to space and going through the wormholes and being brought to Vega, of everything that she saw is very, very similar. And that's the powerful message, I think, of the movie. Vic, yeah, she went out of time. Yeah, she did. She went through a total different wormhole. And the cool thing about that device is like how it dropped. So the whole thing, I don't want to ruin it too much, but the idea that the device dropped for a few seconds, yet she had this immense experience. So it shows that time is relative, like on Earth versus the universe. I mean, it's a really great movie that has a lot of messages about physics and about science of space. It's great. No. Let's see what other movies here. Peachy Fruit, Robin Williams have been in many of my favorite uplifting films. Yeah, he is always in those uplifting films. I don't care what other people say about him. I know that his spirit was the characters that he portrays is basically who Robin Williams is, and that's why his heart comes across so well in these characters. And unfortunately, why he was very sensitive and very sad within this world. But I don't want to bring any conspiracies into this movie here. But I question what really happened in many ways. But I miss Robin Williams, and he's one of those actors. When I heard of his death, it really affected me, and I felt like his energy gone from the world. And I immediately started watching a lot of his movies. I've been like drawn to his movies a lot. Miss Jamie, this is such a great list of beautiful films. Oh, good. I'm so glad. Yeah, if anybody actually stays and listens to them all, you'll get 50. I'm glad you like them. Yeah, and hopefully there are new ones that you haven't heard of. But these are the ones, and I have a lot more. Maybe I'll do a second part to this, but I was thinking about doing one that was specifically for sci-fi because I have so many that I love that are about aliens and sci-fi in general. So I think I'm going to do a video on that so I can give you guys a list of that. But I am not just about Lord of the Rings, although I absolutely love it and it's one of my favorites too, of course. Naren, when he's in the underworld with his wife, is so sad. What Dreams May Come. Yes. Yeah, that part is really hard, but as much as that movie takes you through the underworld, it also takes you to heaven too, and it's really beautiful. Jumanji. Oh, Jumanji. Yeah, that's a good movie. I didn't put it on my list. I do like it. I like the newer ones with The Rock. I think that they did a great job with them. They're pretty funny. And the ending of one particular one where he turns into like the horse that flies and wants to stay, I thought that that was a powerful scene. It's a good, yeah, those are good movies. I love Chris Rock. Or, yeah. Is that, no, it's not Chris Rock. What is, it's just The Rock. He's a great actor. I really, really like The Rock a lot. He's one of those gentle giants that plays his parts really well. Yes, Rain. So my favorite is The Fellowship of the Rings, but The Return of the King is so good as well. I could not pick. If I was going to put down the movies, I would have put them all down because to me they all just kind of blend together and just one beautiful message. I love it so much. And I do a marathon twice a year. I do it during the summer and then I do it during the holidays because I really love watching The Lord of the Rings. And thankfully my husband is not sick of them and he enjoys doing the marathons with me because I do them twice a year and I do all of them. I do The Hobbit too. So yeah, we're watching all those movies together. Kristen, I like Shallow Hal. Yeah, isn't that a great movie? I watched it again and I saw so much beauty in it again. And I really love the soundtrack. I actually, when I was younger, I was like in my early 20s when I saw it, I ended up buying the soundtrack because I liked it so much. And I love Shallow Hal's character. Like I love seeing his change. And Gwyneth Paltrow, she does this beautiful job. I'm like spellbounded watching her. She could play a very good Gladriel if she wanted to, Gwyneth Paltrow. But she has this beautiful character of Rosie in this movie, and I just love watching it so much. Which Fairy Queen, which was your favorite movie as a child? I would love to know. Oh, Ever After? Yes, with Drew Barrymore. It's a great movie. Really, really a beautiful movie. And I love that, like I said, like he said, I'm hypnotized by your mouth, not by what she looks like. Although she does look really beautiful in the movie, and especially when they go to the ball. I love her outfit far more than I mean, I think the Disney Cinderella was beautifully done, but Drew Barrymore's fairy angel costume is unreal. That dress is so beautiful. Yes. If you want to not even have to watch the movie and you just want to see what she looked like, just look up Drew Barrymore and Ever After, the Cinderella story, and look at the mask, the ball dress that she wears. It's beautiful. Miss Jamie, Ever After is amazing. Seen it over 100 times and it never gets old. Yeah, I love her in it. I do. It was, and she's so feisty. And the new Cinderella with this new actress in the Disney version, she also has like a feistiness to her too. But there's this really nice, I think, intelligence that we see in Ever After, especially with her quoting a lot of like books from Thomas More and poetry and philosophy, and they really expounded on that a lot. Meilon, 2006. Oh, welcome. Another anime made by Miyazaki that has similar themes to Princess Mononoke is Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. Yes, that's a great one. Thank you for putting it down. One of the differences between these two is it is set in a more futuristic setting. Yes, you can definitely put that down on your list too. I love that, and especially the message about nature and humanity, very powerful. Naren Legend. Hey, you might like to watch my video. I have like an hour of it, me talking about it, rambling on about how awesome Legend is. It needs a remake along with the Never-Ending Story. They did do a Never-Ending Story 2, which I couldn't get into as much. I loved the first one, of course. And yes, Never-Ending Story, Labyrinth, Legend, all those are great. I wanted to put Labyrinth down, but it wasn't as, I don't know, I guess it wasn't as like uplifting as other movies, although it was beautiful and really entertaining, and David Bowie is just amazing to watch with Jennifer Connelly. But I just didn't put it down for some reason, but I do love Labyrinth a lot. Naren, young Tom Cruise is the only Link from Zelda we'll ever get. Yeah, he did a great job in the Legend movie. I think he did an excellent job as Jack, though, the forest boy. Did I say Robert Williams? I mean Robin Williams. Yes, sorry. What was I don't know what I was thinking. Yes, Robin Williams. Thank you for that. I just had a brain block, I guess, thinking of something else. Erica Z, I love the movie Dare to Be Wild. Dare to Be Wild. I'm looking it up right now. It sounds familiar. There's another movie too called Wild Hearts Can't Be Broken. That's also a good one. Dare to Be Wild. No, I haven't seen it. Okay, I'll have to check it out. It says Irish woman. Oh, yes, that's the one. Yes, I did a video on it. I did. Yes, it is about the Irish woman who's trying to enter the Chelsea Flower Show. Yes, I did. I did a video on it because I thought the message behind keeping gardens more wild and thinking aesthetically like that could be really beautiful for the world instead of always trimming and cutting down the growth. And I did a video on that. I love that movie as well. It's a great one. Let's see, more movies. King Arthur, The Legend of the Sword. That is very good. I actually just saw a cartoon recently of Arthur and the sword. It was a girl, though. It was a girl she lost her father, who was one of the knights of the Round Table. And then so she's actually trying to find the sword for King Arthur. It's an old movie. It's like in the 80s. But she meets a man who's blind in the forest, who's a lot like an elf, where he like understands nature so well that he can live in the forest blind, and he helps her. And they develop a relationship, and it's a really great animation version of King Arthur. Practical Magic is wonderful. Miss Jamie, good. Yeah, I love that movie. I do. It's very sad in the beginning. It's very hard to watch Sandra Bullock. She's one of my favorite actresses as well. I really like her, Natalie Portman, and I like Nicole Kidman. But Sandra Bullock is one of those actresses. I just watch her spellbound. I love how natural she is in everything. And she does this phenomenal job in this movie, and you just feel so much for her. And at the end, you're rooting so much for her. And the ending is so amazing. It's just, I wanted to live in that house with those sisters and like dance with them. It was amazing. I love that movie. Black Panther, Karen. Oh, yes. Black Panther, that new one, phenomenal. I love that movie. Wakanda Forever. Sure. Absolutely. It's beautiful. Naren, yes, I know what you're talking about. Eye Origins. Has anyone seen the movie about the eye scientist and it has all these synchronicities? Eye Origins. So I did not put that on the list. I'm glad you mentioned it because of the kind of the horrific thing that happens within the movie. I don't want people to be upset with me if I mention that movie, recommend it to them, and they watch it. But the idea behind it is that it's about rebirth and reincarnation, and how he meets this really spiritual girl, and how he's trying to figure out and study the eye, because the eye is, I guess, the only thing that scientists cannot reproduce. Like the eye is something that is so complicated in its design that it's like impossible to recreate. So it's all about, like reincarnation, and has something to do with the eyes, and it's a beautiful movie. I really love that movie, but it's hard because of this abruptness in this event that goes on in this movie. I didn't want people to be upset with me. But if you can see the movie for its wholeness, it could be a really a joyful movie. I'll be right back. 1 second, guys. Okay. So this is, yes, Eye Origins. Yep. That's the one. Yes, Matilda, Danny DeVito. I know. It's a great movie, though. I don't know. I think maybe because when I was reading it as a girl and I felt so, like, weird in a lot of ways, I felt like this movie really reflected that, and the book as well, too. The book and the movie, they're equally good, which is hard to say because sometimes books and movies, they don't equal each other, but I did enjoy the movie a lot, and I think it's really heartwarming. Lorianne White, you better have a lot of tissues when you watch Powder. I know, it's heartbreaking, but it's beautiful too. Like, I find myself happy crying at the end. It's a happy, warm, happy tears. K-Pax, yes. So Miss Jamie, I'm going to be doing a video on just like alien movies, and K-Pax is definitely up there. That movie I wanted to put on my list too, and I ran out of room. I wanted to put some other ones on there, but yes, K-Pax is a great movie. More so about, I think it makes you see the intelligence of like the extraterrestrial and what Kevin Spacey plays, and like how that interesting idea of like coming into a soul as a walk-in. That idea of walk-in is basically a theme in the movie, and I really love it. But I'll mention it for sure in the next video I do about sci-fi movies that would help starseeds and, those that really love science fiction and they want to explore the idea of aliens. Like, I have a list of all those movies. I'm always looking out for good sci-fi movies. Eve Enlightened, love catching you live. Oh, good. I'm glad. I'm happy that you guys could join me. Sometimes I don't know who's going to be able to jump on, but I'm happy that you are having fun. Yeah, I wanted to have fun tonight because I know that some people might be looking for some movies to watch. So I thought, hey, I'll give you 50 of them that you can watch. Naren, which one makes you want to eat a whole banana? Oh, Pax, K-Pax, yeah. Eve Enlightened. I will say one movie that woke me to my own awakening through twin flame acknowledgement was Hancock. I was going to put that, and I'll put that on my sci-fi films. Yes, Hancock is a great movie. I love Will Smith in it. At first, it's just like a funny comedy, but you're right about that twin flame energy that that you start learning about. It's a great movie. Yeah. Definitely can help you awaken to that energy. That's neat. Thank you for sharing. Oh, Lori, part of the Green Mile was filmed near where you live? Oh, wow. Oh, that would be wonderful to go see. Yeah, I love that film. Tom Hanks, I just absolutely love his character in that film. Um, and I love John Coffey. And together, beautiful. The chemistry is wonderful. No need for peeing, John Coffey. Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. You gotta watch Green Mile again. Sabrina Ray, what movie is it just got here? Oh, The Green Mile. Oh, you love The Secret Garden? I love that movie too. The 90s one, for sure. It's the best. It makes you want to go live in the English countryside though, because it's so like quaint and quiet and serene. And then when she gets into the garden, you're like, I want my own secret garden. And I love that movie so much. I could live inside that movie. Also inside of Rivendell and Lord of the Rings, but inside that movie I wanted to as a little child. And now as an adult, I want to just live in Rivendell. Let's see, any other movies here? Oh, Transcendence, starring Johnny Depp. Yeah, it does have a strong message of love. Yeah. Some people didn't like that movie, I heard. I know that it got mixed reviews. I do like it. I do like it. But it was one of those movies, and maybe it's just because of the way Johnny Depp played it, but it didn't like leave me warm-hearted or raise my vibrations. It was more like, oh, that's interesting. I like that. Like Ex Machina. I love that movie about that robot that finds her freedom at the end. And I think it's beautifully done, but it's like one of those where I'm like, yeah, this is entertainment. Like I see movies as either they could be entertainment and they're fun to watch, or there's some that like just leave my heart like buzzing and my mind thinking for days, and they affect me. They affect my life in some way. And those are the 50 that do that. But yeah, Transcendence is a good one too. What's another movie? Totoro, yes. Thank you, Muriel. Yes, Totoro was the big, giant gray cat in the forests of Miyazaki. Yes. Yes, that animation is great, like Spirited Away. Let's see, what's another one? Mystical Laws. Yes, that one is really intriguing, Siren of the Void. I really, really love that movie, and you're surprised by it because there's actual some. I feel like the person who was creating it wanted to actually leave some spiritual wisdom within it too, because you actually get mystical laws of the universe that ring true. I mean, they feel very true, and maybe it's something that we can all agree on. What's another one? Man of Mancha. Or La Mancha? Man of La Mancha. Man of La Mancha. I need to. Another Jack Black one is Nacho Libre. It's funny. It can kind of be heartwarming too at some points in time, and School of Rock. I feel like Jack Black plays a good character in those movies where they turn out to be really heartwarming movies, good for the soul. Don Quixote. I have not seen this movie. Don Quixote is one of those authors that I've always wanted to read. Like Don Quixote. I always wanted to read some of his things. Or Miguel, Miguel Cervantes, Don Quixote that he wrote. Yeah, I wanted to read Don Quixote, but I never got a chance to. I'll have to check that out. Let's see, what's another one? I just watched a good movie on Tubi for free called The Fairy King, Lorianne White. It's family friendly and a must-all who loves fairies. All right, I'm writing that down. The Fairy King. You know, another good one about fairies is Spiderwick Chronicles. I was actually really pleasantly surprised by that movie. The Spiderwick Chronicles, like where it goes into the different elements of the fairyland. I thought it was really good. So I'll check that out. The Fairy King. And then try look up Spiderwick Chronicles. That's also on Netflix too. Let's see. Oh, Miss Jamie, you watched Capturing the Light today? Wow, just good. I'm so glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, that was my reaction too. Wow. I was buzzing for days. And of course I had to do a video about it to get other people to watch it. Buzz with me. Muriel, The Fountain made me cry a lot because of my own experience with reincarnation and people I've met from past lives. It's very beautiful. Yeah, I know. It really does make you look at the people in your life, and maybe you've been with them before and how you have been with them before. It's a wonderful, wonderful movie. Rita, welcome. You're late to the party, but that's okay. Oh, you loved Arrival? Good. Oh, I'm glad you liked it. Yes. Isn't it a beautiful movie? Well, now you have 50 other ones or 49 other ones when you rewatch to check out. Siren of the Void, Miss Doubtfire comes to mind. Yeah, that is a feel-good movie. I think Robin Williams does a good job with that too, by making us feel all warm and fuzzy with the older woman who becomes a caretaker to the family that is in need of a caretaker. I love that. That's a good recommendation. Yeah, Dwayne Johnson. That's right. He's not just The Rock. Dwayne Johnson. That's his full name. I love that man. I think he's a great actor, but also he's a good person. Like he does a lot like for others. And I just think that he's one of those people that didn't grow up famous, but got into wrestling and he made his way into being famous, but he always had just pure intentions at first, like to help his family out. And, fame was not his main goal. And you could tell that about Dwayne Johnson. He's a sincere person. Let's see, any other ones? Oh, Mirror Mask. Yes, Peachy Fruit. Oh, that is a good one too. Mirror Mask. I really found that I think it was really interesting, and yes, it is reminiscent to Alice in Wonderland. And I didn't put Mirror Mask down. Maybe I'll have a separate list for like movies that make you think. Because I thought maybe some people might think Mirror Mask would be too weird for them. Because I was also thinking about like how other people might take these recommendations, and I don't want people to be upset and be like, "Oh, that was a terrible movie." I'm trying to pick things that like you're going to feel like. Pretty much, these are. I don't know. I feel like you would have to look at the movies in a completely unemotional place to not feel something from these movies, because they're all very uplifting in a lot of ways. But yes, Mirror Mask is good. Oh, Independence Day. That's a good sci-fi movie. Yep, I'll put that on there. Yes, I definitely will do a sci-fi movie, because I was starting to put so many different like alien movies, and I was like, you know what? I'll just do a separate video for that, for all the starseeds that are looking to feel like they're not the only aliens on Earth. Siren of the Void, is your cup related to anything in particular for whatever reason? Totoro springs to mind as I looked at it. Yeah, it does kind of look like that too. It's actually a mermaid tail from Starbucks. It's I'm not a big Starbucks collector, but this cup really, I don't know, it stood out to me because it's like a mermaid tail, and I liked it. So yeah, I bought this. So yeah, it's the fish tail of the siren of Starbucks. But yeah, it kind of does look like that. So anybody else have any other suggestions? School of Rock, Naren. Yeah, it is a feel good. Isn't it like when you see all those kids get together at the end and they're making all this fabulous music? You're like, oh yeah. I love it. Yeah, and of course, Lord of the Rings. I didn't add that to the list, but I thought I should just leave that out and just tell you that's just a given. If you want to uplift yourself and do a marathon or even just watch one, it will definitely warm your soul and help you believe in beauty and friendship and hope again. And sometimes we just need those reminders. I feel like movies are really good for that because think about it. You're going through your day. Your spouse is treating you one way. You're dealing with your boss another way. You're dealing with your inner thoughts your other way. So the only way to get yourself out of your reality for a second, to see another perspective, is movies and books and entertainment. And sometimes those movies and books and things that we're drawn to are reflecting back a message to us. And then we get these profound realizations and emotional experiences while watching them. That's how Lord of the Rings was for me. And I realized that with a lot of different movies that there are these really deep messages within these movies. So most of these movies, because I have Netflix, you can find on Netflix or Amazon Prime. I try to not put movies that you can't find anymore, like cult classics that you have to buy. But these movies you should be able to find quite easily. So I think I'm pretty much done, and then I'll make another video sometime later. Not right now, but I'll do it. I'll do it maybe next week. Yeah, I'll get together a list for people, and I hope you all have a great night. And I'll see you next. I don't know what is coming next, but I'm thinking that it might have something to do with the Elven Light University, so we can get back to that, getting in touch with our Elven Light within us. But I thought that this would be a fun little break and give you 50 new movies to look at or old ones to revisit. So I'm so happy all of you joined me. It was nice to talk to you, and I will see you on the next video.